Hello and welcome back to Jewish Midlife. I'm Devora Krasnianski, your host. Today's episode was recorded before the horrific events of October 7th. In the initial weeks following that day, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't the right time to resume our usual discussions about midlife. As the world continued its unpredictable course, I found strength in Debbie Weiss's message of maybe I can. It became a mantra as I worked through some of the challenges and requests that were thrown my way. And now it's so clear that the message we are about to share isn't just relevant, it's profoundly necessary. In the midst of uncertainty and chaos, the words of our guest resonate louder than ever. Maybe I can. So without further ado, let's dive into this episode with Debbie Weiss and explore the transformative power of maybe I can. So I'm really excited to be talking to you, Debbie Weiss, about this important topic of midlife, moving from what we were to who we are. And I love the name of your book and your podcast. So I want you to definitely talk about that.
Okay.
So before we get into the conversation, could you talk a little bit about who you are?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Debbie Weiss, and for the majority of my life, the first 50 years, I was a victim of my circumstances. And we'll talk about it, but I had one obstacle, event, circumstance after another, as many of us do. And I kind of let it rule my life. And I had an aha moment about 10 years ago and realized even with all those obstacles, those circumstances, I'm the one who really has the control. And so I changed my life. I do have a full-time career that I've had for 30 years. I'm an insurance agent. However, now I introduce myself as a best-selling author, a podcaster, a speaker, and a coach. And it's amazing how I have transformed my life.
So the title of your book, I love it.
So the title of my book is called On Second Thought, Maybe I Can. And it's a memoir. It's a compilation of about 30 plus stories of my life. And it kind of takes you through stories where I gained my limiting beliefs, unfortunately, that all of us have. We might not realize it. And, the struggles that I faced, and then my aha moment and what I've done since then. And I do have a podcast. It's called Maybe I Can, surprise. And, the whole idea is whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Right. I think that's a quote by Henry Ford, which I love. And, that's my message. Just because you might be in a place where you might not even realize you're unhappy. Sometimes you just get caught up in life. And at least for me, I thought, well, this is what it is. I wasn't a negative person. I was, this is it. This is my lot in life. These are my circumstances. I'll just live it out until it's over. And that's not true.
I love the title, Maybe I Can. I love the message that it gives. And that's really intriguing. So I really do want to get to talking to that part of like how you got from your circumstances, which I think people can read in the book. I think you have a lot of interesting things that happened or difficult things that happened, like all of us do.
Yeah.
And then 10 years ago, something changed for you. And if you want to talk about what it was that clicked for you, but more important, I'm really intrigued by the process of going from that mindset of this is it to maybe I can, and all the interesting things that you're doing now.
Okay. So it was 10 years ago because as we're taping, I'm only a few days from my 60th birthday.
Happy birthday.
And thank you. And on my 50th birthday, my friends insisted that we go away for a couple of days. And look, I had been my father's caregiver. My father had a stroke when I was 17. And my parents got divorced and he didn't live with me. And luckily he survived for 30 years, but was disabled. And so I was his person. And when I was turning 50, he had just died a couple of years earlier. And I have an older son who suffers from mental illness and originally was diagnosed on the autistic spectrum. And at that point, maybe he was like 12. And I have a younger son as well. And my husband also suffered from a lot of anxiety and depression. And for me to leave them for a minute felt impossible. But, 50 was a big number. I think it's a big number. It seems for me it was very transformative. And we went away. We did go. And the minute that we all met at the airport, I was laughing and enjoying myself so much that I forgot about any of their problems. Like I forgot all my worries about what was going to happen in 2 days. And when we were on that trip, we laughed and just had the best time. And one night we're at dinner and I was laughing and I stopped and I said, you know, was I known for my laugh? And they all just kind of looked at me with this, face like, what are you talking about? So when I was younger, and I don't even think I could do it right now, I have quite a loud cackle. And so it was kind of a trademark of mine. And they were surprised that I even was asking that because it was a big part of who I was. And I honestly had forgotten because I lost my laugh. I lost my laugh over that last 30 years. I turned into somebody who was just doing everything that was expected of me, doing everything for everyone else, and I forgot who I was. And that made me start thinking, I'm 50. Am I still middle-aged? I guess so. But, none of us know when is going to be our last day, but it's getting closer. And I don't want to be that person who looks back and says, I can't believe that I didn't do this, this, and this. Like, this is it. And I never took any risks. I never discovered what Debbie wants instead of what everybody else wants from me. And that's what started my transformation with the mindset. So as you'll read in the book, weight has always been a huge struggle for me. From the minute that I was born, I was chubby. And then, up and down hundreds and thousands of pounds, probably for a million times. And I joined Weight Watchers. That was kind of like the first thing that I felt like I have to just get my health in order. It became more about being healthy by the time I'm 50 than what I look like. And I went back to Weight Watchers for the millionth time, but I said to myself, this time it's going to be different. In the past, it was all or nothing thinking. I had to be a perfectionist. Either I was on the diet or I was way off the diet. I was good, I was bad. And if I was bad, I would throw up my hands and say, you see, I did it again. I can't do this. I said, this time, forget losing weight. My goal is going to be that I'm going to show up back then at a Weight Watchers meeting every week. That's it. It doesn't matter, Weight Watchers, you track your food. I don't care if I track my food. I don't care if I lose a pound. It doesn't matter. This is where I'm going to start. And that's what I did. And I did that for a couple of months and didn't really lose much weight, up and down, maybe a few pounds. And then once I had that down, I added, another thing. I'm going to track my food, but I'm not going to do it every day. I'm going to do it 50% of the time. And that made me realize I was in control. Weight Watchers didn't change their plan, right? I mean, yeah, they make little tweaks to their plan every couple of years, but I changed the way I viewed the whole process. That was what the shift was. I also said to myself, there is no end game. Like, you're never off this. It's not all or nothing. Yeah, you'll have times that you're better and times that you're not. And that's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. And if you don't reach your goal, if you don't lose weight fast enough, like I was done with thinking, oh, I have to make sure I lose 20 pounds in 3 months. And then I have to lose this by my birthday and by the summer and all that. Nope. Whatever it is, I'm just going to do the best I can. And I did wind up losing. I had a lot of weight to lose. I never hit my goal. I wound up at that point losing 90 pounds over a very long time, like 3 years. And again, never got to my goal and still have it. And it's like, that's okay. That's really okay. And when I saw how that shift in the way I was viewing it changed my outcome, I realized, hey, I can apply this to other things. And that's how the whole thing started. I'll stop there to see where you want me to go.
So I think that's amazing how you had this big a moment with your friends. It wasn't just like one day you woke up. It was something that triggered it, the whole shake up a little bit. And then you just
Yes.
took it tiny steps, tiny steps. I love the idea that you just showed up. And that was all that you wanted from yourself, as opposed to when you were younger and in a different mindset. I think it's a little bit of both. I do think that midlife kind of gives us this idea of it doesn't this idea that it doesn't have to be all or nothing, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and it's just about health in your case with Weight Watchers, but it really could be with anything. It's not, it has to be done in a certain way. And I kind of think that it's a wonderful part of midlife as we see the world a little bit differently, and I love that. uh so the whole idea, then you were able to take it on to other things. So what did you take it
But
on to next?
yeah, so from there, I realized, okay, I I had a secret that nobody really knew, and it was about my money situation. I always handled the money, and I'm not even going to go into, I have my quote unquote excuses how I got myself into these circumstances, but it was something I couldn't talk about with my husband because anytime I would bring it up, it would trigger depression, and I couldn't deal with his depression. So I was dealing with it myself. And actually, another aha moment right before COVID, it was actually February of 2020. I don't know if anyone remembers, but Oprah was doing like this, I don't know, let's say 10 city tour. And it was a day long event. And at each city, she was interviewing, a big name guest. And she was coming to Brooklyn, and Michelle Obama was the guest. And it was kind of in conjunction with Weight Watchers a little bit, but it was really, more than that. And so my cousin Mindy and I went to the event. And at the end of the day, Oprah was on the stage by herself. What's that stadium in Brooklyn? It's probably holds like, 20,000 people. So quiet, you could hear a pin drop. And she shared a very personal story. I don't even remember what it was. But after that, she said, you know that you have a secret. You have something that you are not addressing. You're pushing it down and you're hoping it goes away. But I'm here to tell you, it's not going to go away. If you keep it there, it's going to explode. If you start to pay attention to it and work on it, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but you're going to be a lot better off in the long run. And I started crying because I knew she was speaking to me. And it was that I had to start handling my money situation and take control and responsibility. And that set me off on the journey that I've been on since then for the last 3 years. At that point, I said, okay, what are my choices here? I can spend less, earn more. And I was trying to spend less, and I had a lot of things that I wanted to do. I mean, I really wanted to sell my house, but my son and my husband, with their mental illness, it just was pushing them over the edge. So I said, okay, I got to figure out a way to make more money. So I decided that I was going to sell this supplement product that I had started using after actually listening to another podcast of a woman who was a motivational speaker and at her recommendation. And I felt like it was really working for me. So it made sense. And that same podcast woman would always talk about a mastermind. I had no idea what a mastermind was. I felt like, what the heck is she talking about? And she had her mastermind coach on her podcast, and he was launching a program for new entrepreneurs who earn $0 to $500,000 a year. And I was like, well, I earn zero at this supplement thing, so I'm eligible. Let me sell the supplements, and I'm going to join this mastermind, and they're going to tell me how. And I joined the mastermind. It was virtual, 150 people. I was definitely one of the oldest. I would say the average age was probably about 35. And I listened as one person after another introduced themselves with such passion. And I didn't know that this whole online world existed. I felt like was Dorothy and landed in the Wizard of Oz, in Oz. I just was floored by what people were doing out there and how they were helping others. And they were helping others based on their own experience, what they had gone through and overcome. And they were showing others how to do the same. And I was so inspired by that. I thought, I really love this product, but I want to do what they do. I want to do something to help people and share my story and share my message. And that was the beginning of my transformation, the author, the everything I do now.
That's wonderful. I think that also that comes with midlife. So I'm happy that they're doing it at a younger. Well, at midlife, we have so many more years of experience. And in your case, you have that experience of moving from that's it, this is my life, to this amazing all these new things that you're doing. And in the book, you have some of these things. Could you share some of those crazy things that you did?
So I have always loved hearts. Since I was a little girl, I love pink, I love red, I love hearts, sprinkles, all these kind of things. And when I was in college in Washington, D.C., there was a store that only sold items that had hearts on them. And when I discovered that store, I wanted to live there. I wanted to sleep in that store and look at everything and kind of like let it envelop me. And every weekend, I would say to my friends, let's go over to the old post office pavilion because that's where the store was. And I would say, I'm telling you, one day I am going to own my own heart store. I don't know if it'll be this one. Maybe I'll buy this one or I'll open my own. Mark my words. And of course, I became a CPA and my life started, and I forgot about the heart store. And last November, I'm in bed and shopping for something on my phone. And when I was on the website, I, put in hearts in the search bar. Nothing new, right? I've always loved it. But for whatever reason, in my head, something went off. And I thought, my heart store. It was almost 40 years ago that I was there. It was 40 years ago, actually. And now I don't need to have a brick and mortar building anymore. I can do something online. And the next morning, I luckily, through all these people that I did meet in the mastermind, there was a woman I just adored up in Canada. And this is what she did, set up businesses online. And I called her the next day and I said, okay, Sarah, here you go. I have no money and I have no time. Can I do this? And she laughed and she said, yes, and explained to me, what the process would be. So that was mid-November, and my store opened online January 14th of 2023.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that you took something from your childhood and held
Yeah.
on to it in the back of your mind, or deep, deep in the back of your mind. I forgot about it for so many of those years. And I love the idea of looking back into our childhood to see what really inspires us, what excites us. And you actually did it. You opened your heart store.
I still can't believe it. Sometimes I can't believe it. And it just brings me such joy.
And this is something even bigger. It's not just like, we had this fantasy of one time going paragliding. And so you finally did it. This is like a big jump. It's like starting a new store that has actually every single day things that you have to do. And not just like paragliding, which is a one-time thing, which I think is great. Also looking back to your childhood and doing something that you were thinking about, whether it's visiting a place, touring a place, traveling to a place, or paragliding, or having a conversation with somebody, or getting yourself on a podcast. For some people, I guess from childhood, it wasn't a child.
Yeah.
Getting onto the radio might have been for somebody.
Sure.
And just doing it. But the store is a big deal, and good for you.
Thank you. So let me share
a little pitch for yourself.
So it's called A Sprinkle of Hearts. So it's a sprinkleofhearts.com.
Everything together, the sprinkles on the hearts.
Exactly. You know what? I actually, funny you should say that, when I was first trying to come up with a name, when you do come up with a name, you have to make sure that it's available as a website. And so all the names that would pop into my head were not available. And so I came up with another name, and it was fine. And I don't like fine. And I was going to go with it. And I actually, applied for the ID number, started the whole process with the other name. I think it was Countless Hearts. And I don't remember what it was. Something came to me as I was doing something, and I was like, oh my goodness, how did I miss this? One of the other things that I love so much are rainbow sprinkles and ice cream. Rainbow sprinkles make me so happy. And then boom, it just popped into my head. And I, went through the process of changing the name.
I'm wondering why you said, yeah, I don't like fine. Was that always, or is that more now? Because fine kind of goes together with it is what it is.
Yeah, no, it was, I grew up like that. How do I look? Fine. Fine? Really? Fine means not so good. And in my family, it kind of turned into a joke, like never tell the Debbie anything is fine, because she doesn't like it.
So you always challenged fine.
Yeah, I didn't like fine. I thought it was like I said, you're just covering up your real feelings
Oh, yeah,
instead of,
sure. Yeah, sure. But I think that for some people, it's the way they live their life until they don't. So good for you that you didn't accept fine all along.
no, did not like fine. The other thing that I did was honestly write this book. I was not a person at all who ever thought or wanted to write a book. And the fact that I'm now a published author is it's insane. It's so amazing, because it just, to me, shows the power of our minds, and how if we shift our thoughts, literally anything is possible. I mean, I'm not going to go be an Olympic swimmer at this point. That's a little out of my reach. But everything else is in our reach. And people had been telling me for a while that I should write a book. And I would always say, yeah, yeah, and not really believe that I was ever going to do it. I was, like I said, I was an accounting major. I was a CPA. I've been an insurance agent for 29 years. I'm a numbers girl. I am not, I don't like to write. I avoided it in college. I didn't take the classes if it was going to be a lot of papers. Anyhow, again, the power of podcasting, it really quite amazing, because the power of podcasting is what started most of my transformations. I was listening to a podcast that I listen to occasionally, and there was a woman on, and she helped first-time authors get their story out into the world. And as I listened to the podcast and listened to her talk, I felt a connection. And I thought to myself, if I am ever really going to do this, I need help. And I contacted her, and there was a wonderful connection. And she was launching a group program, a 12-week group program at that point, for first-time authors to write whatever. Not everybody was writing a memoir. At the same time, my husband was diagnosed with terminal blood cancer. And, I had no idea what was in store. I was scared out of my mind. And like I said, he was also struggling with mental illness, which is extremely difficult for everybody in the family. And I said to my therapist, am I crazy? Like, I'm embarrassed to say that I'm actually thinking about doing this for a lot of reasons. And I'm concerned because I'm an A student, right? So I don't want to sign up for a course and show up every week and not do the assignment. Or I don't know how to write. And if they make me read something I wrote out loud for everyone to hear, I don't like that either, because I'm going to be judged, and I'm not a writer, and all these other people are writers. These are all the thoughts that I was going through my mind, right? That's the I can't. As soon as it was presented to me, it was like, oh, I can't do this, and list all the reasons. But if I take a beat and say, wait a second, and let's think, maybe I can do this. It's that, I used to stop with, I can't. Here's my reasons, all going through my head, telling myself, oh, of course I can't do this. But I say it's my therapist. My therapist says, I actually think that this is a fantastic idea because during this difficult time, you're going to need something else to focus on other than what's going on in your house and with your family. And so I joined. And there was 3 other authors, one nicer than the next, turned into a very safe, supportive community because I I did go through we all here and my family went through an extremely difficult time. And that was June of 2022, the end of June. And my husband passed away December 30th, 2022.
Sorry.
Thank you. So when he did, I was two chapters shy of being done.
Oh, wow.
So I wrote it as, I was caring for him. And luckily, my insurance agency, I have a wonderful team, so I didn't have to be there much. I really needed to be with him 24/7. But I would always make sure it would have been a perfect, understandable reason to say, this is not the right time. Why not? I would carve out an hour a day, whether it was before he woke up. I would, if he was resting, I would tell him, unless it's an emergency, don't call me. I'm going upstairs for an hour. And, it's the kind of the same thing as Weight Watchers. If you think about, oh my gosh, how am I going to write a book? And my husband is so ill, you talk yourself out of it. But if it's little steps, and instead of thinking of the finish line, what's the action I'm going to take today to move me towards my goal of writing the book? And maybe it's not an hour. Maybe I don't have an hour. Maybe it's a half an hour. But isn't a half an hour or 20 minutes better than nothing?
So I love that. I love the idea of, firstly, maybe I can. There you go with your words. Maybe I can. And it's a big deal. And I think your book is very good. I couldn't tell that it was written when there was so much going on in your life. It's very nice and calm and easy read. I don't see the stress of what was happening as you were writing it. And then you did it in small little bits. But the other piece I think is that you had support doing it, because I think some of these bigger things need support, and the camaraderie it sounds like you got from that group. So I think that's really maybe a part of it, and like not trying these big things on your own, whether it's a coach support or a group support, and not this heavy, harsh pressure deadline, because I think that can scare people. But chapter by chapter, hour by hour, depending on whatever it is that you're working on, I think to me, that was an important message, is that little bit, whether in your at first you said it was like an hour at a time, then you said it was even a half hour at a time. It's when you can, but that consistency, because you went from June to almost being finished in December.
Yeah, I actually didn't start writing the book until September. By the time I think the course wound up starting in September. And I had done a little bit of work in August on it before the course started. But I agree with you. For me, being in a group, whether it's a support group, I've had so many different areas of my life that I have gone to support groups, whether it was for autism or mental illness or, caregiving or patient of someone. My husband had MDS. It is called blood cancer, and to find that, like you said, that connection with people who get it. They understand how you're feeling and what you're going through. And actually, my friends call me a groupaholic. I never realized, how much I get from being part of a group. It's not just the leader or the coach or whatever it is. It's the combination of people that just builds me up. And actually, that's what made me say, this is what I need to do. I need to have group coaching because I want others to come into my circle and I want to do the same for them that other groups have done for me. But I have always been a big fan of groups. And yes, I wound up, I couldn't wait until the next Tuesday when we were going to meet again. We all hated to hang up and click leave the meeting. We never wanted to because we just wanted to be there, and you get to know each other, right? So now they're my friends and they live in different parts of the country, and we support each other online, and 3 of the 4 of us, have published our books already.
And that's not even a long span of time. So that's credit
Mhm.
to yourselves and to the support of the group and probably the leader as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. She's amazing. And I still attend a weekly meeting, and I'm ready to write my second book. And, who would have thought? It wasn't even a dream of mine. It wasn't a dream of mine. I didn't know what existed. And when I started allowing my mind to become more open to possibilities, I was amazed how ideas started popping into my head. Where my whole life I said, well, I don't have a creative bone in my body. That's what I would tell people. And it was like the ideas kept coming so quickly. I couldn't write them down fast enough. I didn't know what happened. It's like all of a sudden I'm open to everything and I'm being flooded. And it's super exciting and something that I never dreamed of. But it starts and it continues with my mindset and how you approach things and how you don't let those thoughts that creep into our heads control what you do. If you don't like that thought, just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. And I never realized that. I never stopped to examine that.
And there's so many thoughts that are not, that float into our head and that are not true. And it's like they say, don't believe your thoughts. Just don't.
Yep.
Actually question them before you actually bring them into your life. I'm curious about when you wrote a book specifically that has a book is sort of has a journaling aspect, and I'm wondering if that was helpful to you, as opposed to like when you started the store that doesn't have that extra self-reflection part. So I'm just wondering about that specifically for you and the time that you were in.
So when I started, kind of on this path, I did start exploring different modalities, meditation, Reiki, which I love both now, but didn't love meditation in the beginning. It took me a long time and I stuck with it. Now I really enjoy it, miss it if I don't do it. But journaling was interesting. I had taken a group program with the original podcast woman that I had heard with the supplements. And one of the parts of the program was she sent you this little journal, but it had prompts. So every day, you answered the prompts. And I remember feeling such anxiety over having to do this, not finding the time, but what was I going to write? How am I going to know what I wrote is correct? And other people were,
Perfectionist in you.
yeah, and other people were asking too. Part of it was there were lines to write affirmations. Well, I never had any experience with that. I didn't even know what it was. I was Googling. And then I was Googling and I was just grabbing the affirmations off the internet and putting them in my book. And every day I would be like, oh my gosh, I have to come up with different ones every day. And she finally said, no, you don't. Like, this is yours. It isn't going to be graded. There is no right or wrong. It's whatever you want it to be and whatever speaks to you. So once I relaxed into that, I started to really enjoy it and I stuck with it. Even after the course was over, I kept just ordering more and more of these journals and continuing. And I found it extremely helpful because one of the other things that it helped me do was she asked you to write the top 3 things that you're going to do today that are going to move you towards your goal. And it doesn't have to be anything big. It shouldn't be anything big, right? It's those bite-sized steps. What are the little bite-sized steps that you're going to take today? And that helped me stay on track. I would keep that journal with me. I'd keep it open. So I would remind myself what my tasks were, make sure I accomplished them, or I'd write them on an index card and tape it to my monitor. So I was looking at it all day, along with some of the affirmations. And then another podcast. Oh my goodness. And I'm not even listening to podcasts all the time. I'm talking like 20 minutes a day, and I can't believe the nuggets that I've gotten from them. Another woman was talking about the benefit of free form journaling. Open up a notebook, a blank piece of paper, and just start writing. And I had heard that before. And my immediate response was, I can't do that. What am I going to write? Like, there's the same thing. I don't know what to do. What am I going to write? I don't even know where to start. This is giving me anxiety, and you're telling me this is supposed to be beneficial. No, it's not. But this one day, listening to a podcast, and the woman talked about the benefits, and quite frankly, I don't even remember what she said. It was something I had never heard before. And I thought to myself, there you go again. And this was before the book was, even a thought. There you go again, saying you can't. Just try it, for goodness sake. And I did. And as page after page, and it just felt like my hand was just moving, and I couldn't get it out fast enough. And I started talking about one thing as I was writing. And then the next thing, I took a big turn and, wound up in a completely different place. And I was dumbfounded. And I loved it. I couldn't wait to do it again. And I started doing that day after day. And that is actually what gave me the confidence to say, maybe I can write a book.
I love how you caught yourself. The idea of I'm catching myself already. This is a pattern that I keep catching myself saying, I can't. And so many of us make excuses, and we're really good at excuses. And we should write the book of the excuses, at least start with that. Like, get all the excuses out.
Exactly.
There's new ones. So we're creative in that way. But I love how you caught yourself and you started seeing that you're just stopping yourself from what could be and what is becoming you, and all these interesting things that you're doing, and these interesting people that you're meeting because of moving away from I can't. And I think that if we haven't moved away in our 30s, then in our 40s and 50s and wherever number we're up to, today is a day we could say, I'm not going to say I can't to that. And, or even more so, maybe I can. And I think it's so important because there's so much that we have in us that we just stopped ourselves from. And I love that. So I love your titles. Maybe I can. It's not saying I must. It's not saying I will. It's maybe I can. I love the idea of try new things. Try doesn't mean do it. Doesn't mean that you're going to succeed. It doesn't mean you're going to like it. And I love that. For you here, you're giving examples of things that you said I can't, and then I can't, and you did. But I'm sure there are things that you said I can't. Then you said maybe I can. You tried it and said no. I mean, that's for me anyway. I said at least I tried it. Now I know I don't like it. Now I know. Well, now I can talk about it. Something that we always say in our family is at least we'll have a story to tell.
That's right. That's very true. Very true.
Doesn't it be amazing? I don't have to be good at it.
No.
And like cooking, I'm just not good at.
Oh my goodness.
It's not my thing.
Me neither.
But once in a while, I'll try it. At least now I know that I'm not even going to try that.
That's really funny because my husband was the cook and did the food shopping. He had stopped that for a couple of, the last few years of his life, and I had to take that over, and I can't stand that. I only will go to this one particular supermarket. I won't go to another one because that one's too busy for me, and it gets me overwhelmed. I go zip through that place so quickly, you can't even believe it. But when he passed away, I said, uh-oh. I mean, and he wasn't cooking, for a long time, but we started surviving on takeout and frozen dinners. And my friend said, Debbie, you can do it. Okay. So she actually took me to the store and walked around the supermarket and pointed out things, explaining to me what I could do with those things and how to put them together. She came home with us because my youngest son, Ben, actually came for the lesson. And she came home with us and she made a dish, showed us how to make a dish. We had to like slice onions and peppers. And, it came out great. And it's like, okay, you can do this. Okay. But like you said, I don't want to do this. I don't like doing this, but I tried. It's fine. I've tried different things. Um, yeah, I feel we've kind of slipped back to takeout and frozen dinners. And that's
And
it.
that's
That's
okay.
fine. That's okay. I've tried and I will continue to try little things, but it's not my thing. It's not my thing.
But and not just from I can't. I tried it and it's not my thing. Well, cooking is a little bit more complex because we do need to eat. But
Yes.
like when a friend took me out to go paragliding, I tried it. Not my
Nope.
thing. Not doing that again. Like not doing it. Like I know, and I'm not doing it. But as opposed to I should do it. Maybe I will like it. Now I know. So I love the idea of trying it and like either checking it on my list of do that again or on my list of story to tell done.
There you go. But and didn't even though you obviously didn't enjoy paragliding, didn't you feel some sense of pride that you
Definitely
actually,
that I
you know,
that I did it. I stopped saying I'm not doing that. Definitely.
yeah, that's the thing. I think it's a win-win even when you fail. When I first started, and like I said earlier, when I started the mastermind and I saw what everybody else was doing, I said, well, I want to do what they're doing. I don't want to sell the supplement. I want to do what they're doing. And so I thought about my life, and I have been a caregiver to family members for over 40 years. And I thought to myself, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to help caregivers realize that self care is important. And that's how I started my business. And after maybe about 6 months, I actually went to get online certification for a caregiving consultant. And I started meeting with clients one on one. And I didn't enjoy it because I found that my goal or my vision was not to talk about the struggles of caregiving because I felt like that's what support groups are for. I'm not a therapist. I didn't want that. I wanted to talk about, hey, what can you do for yourself? And understandably, I found that when I was talking to people, instead of wanting to talk about that, they wanted to talk about their struggles. And I didn't enjoy that because I was having my own struggles and it was just bringing me down, quite frankly. And I don't want to say I failed, but I had to make a decision at that point. And I had invested a lot of time and money. And I said, okay, this is not what I want. And I had to let it go. And was it a failure? No,
No.
because, I learned a lot and I pivoted to something resonates with me even more so than the caregiving and more broader than just being in the caregiving world, which is a difficult place to be. And I didn't want that.
I think experimenting is never a failure. It moves us to tweaks us. It helps us know we have to go through the what doesn't work to get to exactly what is going to work. And that perfectionist that wants it to be perfect before or get into the right new thing right away without having experimented about what's going to work or what works for us or what works for the audience want to work with. I think that perfectionism is what holds people back. So just knowing that there's going to be experimenting along the way, I like to call it experimenting along the
I like
way,
that,
and just know that's part of the process. So I love the phrase experiments are never a failure. And because
which
they
is
teach
true.
us.
Exactly. It would have been very easy at that point for me to throw up my hands and say, forget it. I can't do it. I tried. I can't do this.
Or the flip. I invested so much, I'm going to do this
Yep.
and not be
Right.
happy.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Very good point. And I think that that's where most people stop. When you hit that roadblock, that obstacle, you say, oh, there you go. That's proof that I shouldn't be doing this. And a lot of people stop instead of, okay, that's information. I've learned something. Now what am I going to do? How am I going to pivot? Instead of just saying, forget it and throwing your hands up.
But I think that the idea of pivot could be a complete pivot totally away from whatever it was that you started. It doesn't even have to be, okay, so what can I learn from here? What information, what context from that situation can I take into my next thing? Sometimes it's the what we got from it is the me. I got empowered, or I made these really difficult phone calls getting here, or and I would go into a totally new industry or go into something entirely different. And not necessarily for you, it worked out that you pivoted within the same care. But I think when people get stuck, like I invested so much or I put so much effort into it, or time, money, contacts, what can I do with that? Sometimes it's just close the book on it and don't try to think about what can I do with that. I think it's important. I love how for you it worked out, not seamlessly. Nothing's ever seamless, and I think that's important for
No.
people to know. But it worked out like it's in tangent with what you were doing. But for some people, it's really just close it. Like don't keep throwing more time or good money after something that's not going to work for you.
Yeah,
And
I absolutely agree. I have an example in real life, an organization that is an amazing organization. And the woman, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to really name the person, but this woman she's incredible. She's been going after her dream for 15 years, but financially she's in a bad place. And COVID kind of really hurt the organization. And I think, you know, she's holding on and hurting herself. So I get what you're saying. It's very hard. It's very hard because you're investing yourself, it's your own, sweat equity, and it's difficult. But, I feel like all of us, if we look back at our lives, right, and all of those obstacles, I mean, how many people would say, and I would say I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't go through those things, right? I learned my father had a stroke and I had to become his caregiver as a teenager and a young adult. Oh my goodness, it thrust me into so many new situations and learning so many new skills so quickly that I would never have chosen to do on my own. But because it was my dad and I loved him so much and I would do anything, it forced me into positions that I was very uncomfortable with and made me face my fears. And I think that that's what it comes down to. We're all scared of something. We're scared, we fear failure or rejection or being embarrassed. I mean, we all have it. I think it's human nature. And that's what makes it so hard to go and try those things. And we tell ourselves these stories to make us feel better for making that decision to not move forward. I tell people, take a time and make a maybe I can list, right? Look back and think of all the things that you have done and remember there was a time when you thought you couldn't do that. And now it's second nature, you know, or even if it's not something that comes up in your everyday life, a moment where you did something. I mean, you can come up with so many things. And then when you're saying I can't, well, take a look at that list. You said I can't to all these things, but you did it.
so I do it similarly, but a little bit different. Is when someone is saying that I can't do it, where was an instance in my life that I was able to do something similar?
Yes.
And so I personally I like to use those better than affirmations. These are called affirmations. I forget who started them, but the concept of when you ask yourself a question, where have I been able to do this? Your mind will go back and try to find it, and I find it every single time. By now already, it's like when I have to make this difficult phone call, I was like, I've done this before. I'm not looking forward to this, but I can do this. I've done this before, so here I go.
Yep.
Just do it.
Jump
And
in.
I can. And then also the other thing that I also work when I talk to people is that just being on the other side of this, just do it. Be on the other side of it. Whatever it is, it's done. Whether and holding on to the anxiety and coming up with the excuses and the procrastination excuses is takes a lot of brain space and a lot of
Absolutely.
energy. So just be on the other side of it. Whatever it is, you'll be on the other side of it. Hopefully it'll be a good outcome, but if not, you'll just be on the other side of it. And that's it. You don't have to get it perfect. And some things are going to be a no, so just get your no already so that you can move to the other side.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of no's,
A
but
lot.
looking back, we've overcome getting a no too. And we can, like you said, and like what I was saying before, is like, we can do it because we've overcome no's before.
Absolutely.
So I love the title of your book and your podcast, Maybe I Can. I think there's so much you said about looking at the I can't and maybe I can. I love how you kind of pulled it all together in this title, Maybe I Can. You started your little heart store. It was to grow bigger because maybe I can.
That's right.
And I love that you actually have that on your sign behind you because it's kind of, I see them as the same thing. It's a real life example of maybe I can. And so you did.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And let me tell you, the heart store too, it was a very difficult time. Like I said, that was November and my husband passed away the end of December. But even in those difficult moments, any time that I was working on the heart store, I had a grin from ear to ear. The joy that it gave me and still gives me is just, it's the gift that keeps on coming. It hasn't, and it has nothing to do. I mean, it's not good from a business perspective of the sales. It's just, look what I accomplished. And when I look at the items, it's my store. I
I
don't
see
even
the
know.
energy in your face when you're talking about
Uh,
it. And I think that's
yeah,
what it. It doesn't have to make tons of money, but that energy on your face is worth, and you're not paying to get that energy on your face. You're actually making some money. Like for some people, they'll even pay to get
yeah,
excited. I mean, we pay for all kinds of things like yoga classes or whatever it is.
right.
I don't know if you're, making money, but that's why it was so important to find something that gives you that passion because you wrote the book. Maybe you
Yep.
said you're starting a new book, so let's see that come out too. But the
Yes.
book is kind of closed. But the store can give you, or something, find out something that gives you continuous energy. And I think that's so exciting for you. And for whoever else, just find that something. And it doesn't have to be big and huge, it doesn't have to be public, but find that something that gives you that energy that we were seeing on your face.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be business related. It, um, you know, I feel like I've been thinking a lot lately about how do you capture that childlike wonder and excitement, you know? And I think it has to be purposeful. I think we have to really look within ourselves and figure out, hey, what was it that I really enjoyed as a kid? What is something I always wanted to try, and just, start making the list and start trying them. And just that act itself, just the act of like taking that step forward, like, "Ooh, all right, let me think about this," or, "Oh yeah, I used to like this and this." That in itself, that will spark an emotion in you that, is just surprising and can really shift your day.
And I think it's great to have that list in case you actually have time. You know what you want to do. And I think that it's like to have that list instead of like, oh, I have a free afternoon. What should I do now? And then we end up on Netflix because we don't know what to
Yes,
do. Have
exactly.
that master list. And then maybe share it with a friend or a spouse or your kids. And if they want to surprise you, they have a list of things that you might actually like to do or like to try. And I
Yeah,
think that's like a gift to them and a gift to you. That I think that master list of things to try. I'm so excited when I actually do something off that list
exactly.
and I keep adding things. I mean, it's so easy to add things from our childhood, but also there's so many things that are now available that were not from our childhood.
Hmm.
I mean, there's a world that has changed since our childhood in the 70s.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Like, but I mean, just like in the city, there's so many cool pop-up museums that are just like we're not there, that we're not a concept. Or like even hiking wasn't. as accessible as it is now. And it's just so many, and we have a car. We can do whatever we want.
That's right.
So I just love having that master list.
Me too.
So I
Great.
really encourage people to have that master list, put it as a Google Doc and share it with people. It's sort of like having a wish list, a gift wish list, but
Yeah.
like let's do something wish list, or like what to try. That's what my thing is for, what to try. But you never know. All kinds of things, all kinds of budgets, all kinds of time. Just do a brain dump. And I think the idea of doing a brain dump with friends, like what did we like to do as kids? And then each other, just kind of have so many people have so many new ideas, things that they've tried, things that they've heard of, and put it all down together, and it's creating your list. I think it's so much. It could be so much fun that I'm getting excited about actually doing it again with friends.
Oh, actually, I think that as you were talking, I'm thinking that is such a wonderful idea. So tomorrow I'm going to Italy with two of my cousins who are also my extremely close friends and a close friend of mine. The friend from college who I told I was going to have a heart store. And we're going to celebrate my 60th birthday. And I love that idea because I am going to one afternoon or night or whatever, when we're all sitting around, I'm going to do that. I'm going to
We're
make us
relaxed,
all,
whether however
yeah,
we're relaxed,
yep,
whether
yep,
it's a little alcohol or not,
yep,
and just let it all flow and let the laughter. I would love to
yes,
hear your cackle, but and just let it go. Like, and I would love to see your list. I can share mine, and we can just kind of see what
sure.
we come up with.
Yeah.
I think
I
that
think
coming
that,
from a little bit different backgrounds, we can have totally different lists that we can conglomerate, and it can be so really cool. Like, I think that having different people in that circle of just brings out so much and expands our world, and I think that's so exciting. There's so much we can do with our midlife and beyond. We don't have the day. You don't have the day to day of carpooling anymore. So
ex-
we have our car to ourselves, and maybe even it be a clean car,
yeah.
and we can do things. So
I
I'm
know
really excited about midlife.
it is. It really is an exciting time. It can be scary, but in, you've
Scary
got to
doesn't take
walk.
away from fun.
That's right. That's
It's an
right.
and world.
Exactly. You're always going to have fear. It's not going away. So just walk right through it and give it a try. And then when what is it? Like all the good stuff is on the other side of fear, right? Walk through it and you won't believe how your life will transform.
All right, so Debbie, so what's your website? How can people find you?
So it's DebbieRWeiss.com. The R is important. Otherwise you'll find someone else who's in California as a realtor. And everything is there. Information about my speaking workshops. I have a waiting list for my group coaching program, which I'm going to stop for a second. There you go. There's another idea, like your thought about doing it with friends. It's another example of the power of groups and
Right.
putting minds together. Anyhow, and all the information about my podcast, my social media, all the stuff. That's where to go, DebbieRWeiss.com.
And your book is on Amazon.
Yep. And you can get it off my website too.
Right. All right. So thank you so much, Debbie. This has been great. You said so many important things about just do it and getting over our fears and getting over our excuses and our procrastination. I think that's very important. I think they're slightly different. Our excuses come from our fears, and we think that they're so valid and they're so real. But then, hey, maybe I can. And I love the title. I'm so glad that someone's using it. I think I would have used it eventually, but I'm so glad that it's yours. So thank you so much, Debbie, and have a wonderful, wonderful trip in Italy.
Thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for joining me in another fascinating conversation about midlife. If you'd like to reach me, Devora Krasnianski, to talk about your midlife or anything else, you can reach me at jewishmidlife@gmail.com. You can also find us on our website, jewishmidlife.com, and follow us on Jewish Midlife on Instagram or Facebook, and join our conversations in our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Jewish Women Talk About Midlife. And share what we're doing with your friends and others in the midlife phase.